coats are cream-colored, not red. Let's hear one of our keepers tell us some more about the species of deer we have here in Conha Meadow.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm part of the Wild Asia Keeper team. We call this area Conha Meadow, where we care for about 40 Barasingha deer, 15 axis deer, 10 blackbuck, and a pair of muntjac. We start our day by checking on all the animals, making sure they are healthy, behaving normally, and safe. Sometimes fawns and calves are born overnight. Newborns are given a neonatal exam, which includes weighing, vaccination, and tagging for identification purposes. While the animals are in the meadow, we prepare their nighttime holding areas so that they have a safe and clean place to spend the night.
We all know that a species that is extinct no longer exists, like the dinosaur or the dodo bird. The next species on our tour was considered extinct in the wild for many years, and that is the Mongolian wild horse, which you can see to your right. There's a happy ending to the story, however, thanks to North American and Asian zoo herds. Przewalski's horse, or the Mongolian wild horse, have been reintroduced into parts of Mongolia and China. As we pass them by, take a good look and see if you can spot any physical differences between them and domestic horses.
I can see the tail. One's just showing a booty.
Well, they're just, a little bit.
You might notice that Przewalski's
It's all by
horse
itself eating grass.
has shorter legs, a stockier build. They also have an upright mane, which gives them the appearance
And the
of
reason
having
why
a
they
long
have
back.
this fence so they
They have
don't
that awesome
escape.
racing strength down their back. Domestic horses have a part of the mane called the forelock that falls down their forehead. However, Przewalski's horse is missing
It's
the
like we're
forelock.
going up.
And let's listen to Jonathan Slatt tell us more about Przewalski's horse.
Farmers in Indonesia.
I'm Jonathan Slatt, and I'm the Russia and Northeast Asia coordinator for the Wildlife Conservation Society.
We're
I believe
sitting
that
on a
wildlife has a
ride.
place on this earth. My job is to find practical solutions that allow people and wildlife to thrive together. Przewalski's horse went extinct in the wild in the 1960s. On a recent trip to Kazakhstan, I thought about the ongoing successful efforts in that country to bring these horses back to the Central Asian steppe. The world needs happy stories, to watch the impossible become possible, and to see hope restored. That's what's happening today with Przewalski's horse.
The Bronx Zoo received its first herd of Przewalski's horse way back in 1902. That was shortly after the zoo opened. And we're proud to say that since that time, we've had over 50 Przewalski's horse foals born right here in the Bronx Zoo. The next animal on our tour is considered the largest species of wild cattle in the world. They're called the Gower. A male Gower can weigh as much as 2,000 pounds, which makes them as heavy as a small car. They can also stand as high as 6 feet tall, and they can get up to 10 feet long. Once we catch up with the herd, they're more on the other side of the enclosure at this time of day. I want you to take a close look at their horns. You can actually tell the difference between a male Gower and a female Gower by the shape of their horns. Males have horns that point upward, and females have horns that point towards their foreheads, that curve inward and point towards their foreheads. And if you look to your right, you can see the herd by the fence line in the distance.
Oh, I can see. I think.
With their formidable size and their intimidating horns, the Gower really don't have much to worry about in terms of predators in the wild. They can even fend off a tiger, but they are vulnerable to loss of their habitat due to farmland, and they're vulnerable to they're vulnerable to diseases that domestic species of cattle can expose them to. And now let's hear from Keeper Dave tell us more about the
Oh, I do.
Gower.
Now I do.
Hi, I'm Dave, a wild animal keeper here in Wild Asia. When the Bronx Zoo received 2 female and 1 male Gower from the San Diego Zoo, it took a couple of introductions before all the animals were comfortable. But But after a little bit of time, the 3 new animals fully integrated into the herd, and we have the family that you see today. A family group of Gower can consist of up to 40 individuals and is typically led by an older adult female called the matriarch. Since the 2 females and 1 male have been added to this family, there have been a number of offspring. This is important because Gower are considered to be a vulnerable species, so it's vital to maintain a healthy growing herd here at the zoo.
I'll be slowing this down momentarily so that we can get a good glimpse at our next animal. Please do remain seated. You definitely don't want to fall into this exhibit. And the reason for that is we're on the lookout for a tiger.
Tigers can be.
We're on the lookout for our 10-year-old Malayan tiger named Panari. And you can see Panari sunning himself in the grass. You look to your right, just above where the pool is. A tiger's stripes are very effective camouflage, and in fact our field scientists even have trouble spotting them in the wild. In the wild, tigers prefer to eat wild pigs and medium-sized deer, and after a kill, they'll gorge themselves on up to 40 pounds of meat. That's the equivalent of us going into McDonald's and eating 160 quarter-pounders in one sitting.
That would be a lot.
You can imagine that after a meal of that size, a tiger won't need to feed again for several days. As we pass into the back side of the Gower exhibit, I'll point you to the top of the hill, where you can get a closer look at the herd of our Gower, and you can get a sense of just how large these animals are. And right next to the Gower, we have the back side of our Kanha meadow. You might be able to spot some of our deer in the distance. I think I see some of our black buck antelope look way down.
Those are big trees.
But in the foreground, you might notice some of our peafowl. The peafowl is the national bird of India. They also happen to be the unofficial bird of the Bronx Zoo, and that's because you can see them anywhere throughout the park. Right down by this fence line, it looks like we have a Barra deer sunning himself.
That's a strong odor.
Oh, we're so high up. Oh, look what that one's sitting down, that peacock.
As we enter this clump of bamboo trees, we're on the lookout for a pig-like animal.
Oh,
They're
you're stuck
called a
together.
Babarusa.
You're against
We
each
have this
other.
Smell.
penitent sprout
Sticky.
on display today.
Me?
Yeah.
Because I got the
Kenneth likes to nap during the daytime by the fence line.
sunblock on me.
Oh,
So he might be a bit hard to see. Yeah, he's
we're
taking a
very
nap
high
over
up
there.
from this.
But we do have our little baby sprout wagging his tail and running around. Looks like he took a dip in the pool.
In a pool? Oh, a bamboo.
Yes.
Babarusa in the Malay language means pig deer. They get that name from the shape of their horns, which give them the appearance of having deer antlers. Don't worry if you missed the Babarusa, you can't possibly miss our next animal, which is the largest land mammal in the world. This is our 50-year-old Asian elephant named Happy. The first thing you probably notice about Happy is her enormous size. Happy weighs almost 10,000 pounds. And to keep her elephantine
I
figure,
can see it.
she has to eat up to 200 pounds of hay every day, and she can drink up to 60 gallons of water every day.
Oh, that's a big one.
Take a good look at Happy's trunk. You might notice a finger-like appendage at the tip. That allows Asian elephants to pick up small objects like a single blade of grass, and the 40,000 muscles in her trunk also allows her to pull down tree trunks and branches with enormous force. Of course, we take good care of our Asian elephants here at the Bronx Zoo. They get baths twice a week, and they even get pedicures. We'll soon be saying goodbye to Happy. But no worries. In the next enclosure, we're looking out for our mama and our baby Indian one-horned rhinoceros named Priya and Patrick. You might be able to see them in the distance through the trees. Right up in front, this big puddle is one of their mud wallows. You can see Priya standing up regally through the trees over here in front. And Patrick is right next to her. Priya's the mama, Patrick's the baby. Might be hard to believe it, but Patrick is only a little older than a year old. He's getting bigger every day. Indian rhinos, we're very lucky here because Indian rhinos like to submerge themselves for the majority of the day in their mud wallows. They do that for several reasons. One is to cool themselves off. But more importantly, the muddy water protects their skin from the sun and also from insects. Contrary to what most people believe, a rhino's skin is not armor plated, but it's just made up of many folds and is in fact very sensitive. We care for 5 different Indian rhinos here at the Bronx Zoo. Caring for rhinos is one thing, but breeding is another thing entirely, and that's because a female rhino is pregnant for 16 months. If there are any mothers on the train, just imagine being pregnant for almost a year and a half, and then giving birth to a 100-pound baby. Let's hear from one of our field scientists to tell us more about our Indian rhino.
I don't understand a word.
WC, the rhinos you see here are Indian rhinos.
Don't you notice there's another seat over
We
here?
work with habitats all over the world that are homes to rhinos. Here is a note from our field office in Sumatra, and Hulam, who works with the Sumatran rhino. Sumatran rhinos are the smallest of the world's rhinos, and they are considered critically endangered.
My name is Ulan Kusarina, and I'm the Species Conservation Specialist for WCS Indonesia program. We carried out an island-wide survey of the last wild population of Sumatran rhinoceros in Indonesia. With so many unknowns on how to manage Sumatran rhinos in the wild world.
Put your hand back in.
Our study
Stick it
showed
out,
definitively
okay?
how we must protect them at source. The cost of doing nothing could be the extinction of the species, and I can't imagine that.
Our next enclosure contains 5 species of deer and 1 species of antelope. If you look to the left as we pass these trees, you can see a couple of our hog deer taking a walk. Keep an eye around the base of the fences because the deer like to shade themselves at the base of the fences. Here we have some more hog deer. Now believe it or not, those are actually full-grown deer. Hog deer get their name from their short, heavy stature. They also move like hogs. They prefer to creep, run low, and duck under obstacles rather than jump over them.
It's hard to see. Yeah, but it's okay. Sit nicely.
And I think we have another hog deer up close. Look at the fence that we're approaching.
Ooh, bubble fence.
Actually, I think that might be a Formosa Sika deer.
There's a track right under us.
It's for safety.
If you look straight down this muddy path towards the corner of the fence line, you'll see more of our part of our herd, the sandbar deer. They're the ones with the dark,
They're all full
the dark
grown,
brown coats.
They're just
And in
smaller
the corner
deer.
up here by the
They're not
fence,
big
you'll
deer
see
like
some of our
what we
Ilgai
see.
antelope. Sandbar deer is the largest deer in Southeastern Asia. They can reach a weight of 650 pounds.
that's
They
the tree
stand
that fell
5
down.
feet tall at the shoulder.
See the tree that fell? That's a
This
big
enclosure, we're
one.
looking for a very small deer that can be extremely difficult to spot. And that's because they don't like the heat. So they tend to bury themselves in the leaves by the fence line, and the color of their skin makes them blend in really well with the rocks.
What was that?
I'm not spotting them. They're called the tufted deer. But I will give you a fact about the tufted deer, which makes them one of my favorites. The males have enlarged canines that give them the appearance of having vampire fangs. That's why they're
Something
called
happens on this
vampire.
ride, I'm gonna scream.
Like what?
Get your cameras ready because we have an excellent photo opportunity coming up as we approach the highest point of our tour at 35 feet above the Bronx River. If you look ahead of us, you can even see an osprey, and you might be able to see the shadow of some fish. You'll even have snapping turtles.
Oh, really?
I see enough of those.
It's habitat to ducks as well as migrating species of birds. The next habitat, if you look in that tree, you'll see one of our goats that call it home. That's one of our Mark IV. The rocky terrain is perfect for the Mark IV, as well as the Himalayan tar, which are the two species of goat that call this enclosure home. They're posing for us right on top here. Those are two males. Those are Mark IV, and you can tell the difference by the shape of their horns. The Mark IV have corkscrew-like horns that reach up to the length of 3 feet. They also have those wizard beards. If you spot a goat with a shaggier kind of coat, short horns that sweep back over its forehead, you spotted a Himalayan tar. Both the Mark IV and the Himalayan tar have an interesting adaptation to their homes.
Oh, I see one just laying down by that tree, the log.
These guys
Look, right there. Oh my God, right there.
slowing down so that we can get a good look at our next animal on our tour. This is my favorite part of the.
I only saw the
It looks like some of them have mustaches.
This down a little bit
Yes,
so we don't
keep your
disturb our little red panda while he's taking a nap. This is Linus.
Taking it in?
And we're very lucky to see him out today because Linus doesn't deal with the hot weather very well. That's because he's from the Himalayan highlands, which has a colder climate, and he has a thick coat of fur. In Nepal, they call the red panda Punho, which means firefox. And in fact, they're not actually related to the giant panda. They're more related to raccoons and even though the giant panda and the
Oh,
red
you look
panda
so cute, that red panda.
Did you see the panda? Yeah.
Where is this?
I do.
You see the
We're going to take
panda?
a quick walk for a trail ride.
Are we gonna come back after this?
We have more red pandas, and you can
Mommy,
see
where is
another of
Rhino?
these large wild cats, the snow leopard. And just to give you guys a heads up, I will be making a quick stop at the end of this block to reset our computer for the next tour. And this is the perfect time to take a look around you and make sure you've gathered all your personal items. And just a reminder, you can't leave your kids on the monorail.
Nuts.
Oh well. Sorry, I think I'm home.
Oh, stuck.
If you've taken any trash in on the ride with you, please do take it out. There'll be a trash receptacle at the front of the exit.
I don't know what's over there.
We'd like to keep
No,
the
there's
grounds
an
clean
animal over there.
for everyone to enjoy.
Where is it taking us?
Going back to the entrance.
Oh, really? Guess what?
Yes.
So they're taking a look. So we've been in a circle?
And I'll just take a quick stop to reset.
So
our
we're seeing the
computer.
same thing.
Please do stay seated. We'll be moving again in just a moment. Okay, here we go.
It took me all the way to 19.
And I will remind you to please stay seated until the monorail comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. If you're in the front row of your car, there'll be a small step upward as you exit. And if you're in the back row, there'll be a small step downward. I'd like to take this time, as we pull into the platform, to thank you for riding with us today on the Wild Asia monorail. I hope you learned something interesting and that you had a great time. And of course, we do hope that you come back again soon to visit us here at the beautiful Bronx Zoo.
Because you always get to see the animals. The more warmer it gets, the more animals there are.
Enjoy the rest of your trip.